All right, looks like I am live 10 minutes, no, 2 minutes early, and my video is a little bit delayed. Let's see if this works for me. And hopefully, if you can hear me, let me know. If not, well, we'll have to reconfigure my tech. I'm still working on the technology problems, and I am not a tech guru, so we will figure out the live streams month by month. But this is the live stream that each month you get to hear about my recommendations for what to watch, and then every one of you gets to go into the chat room or the live chat and tell us what your recommendations are for November 2020. This is a great time for me to look at the live chat and go, oh, I've never seen that movie, and then I go watch a couple of them during the month. I usually watch 2 or 3 that the viewers recommend, and it's just tremendous to share our resources and knowledge like this. So November 2020, welcome to November. Let's wait for a few more people in here. I'll tell you a little bit of news about the channel. It's, first of all, the channel's birthday, sort of. Happy birthday, channel. And I have been working hard on the channel this year just to pump out a bunch of videos and try to get different kinds of people interested in the subject matter and sort of my style of analysis, as well as improving the channel overall. So I appreciate that. Everybody who comments, everybody who is here in the streaming and so on. And so after a year, 4,000 some subscribers, a bunch of viewers, a tiny bit of income, enough to probably eat fast food once a day. Not that I do that. And the big bit of news for me is that because of all the subscribers, I've got access now to Netflix's media center. They're calling me a journalist in emails to me. And so I'm able to screen movies early before they're released and then review them, creating video reviews of Netflix's output movies solely. But that you'll see that from me now going forward is that I will produce reviews of Netflix stuff. And not that I love Netflix or think it's a wonderful thing, but they are producing new movies in this time of coronavirus where we're not having movie theater movies released. And certainly the streaming services are having probably an increase in streaming. I don't know that for sure. Plus, I've got Apple TV access as well. And Apple TV isn't used near as much as Netflix, but I just screened Werner Herzog's new documentary releasing on Apple TV in a couple of weeks. So it's a really nice privilege, and that's thanks to you, because I have enough subscribers and the channel's big enough. I was able to send emails to those companies and ask for some for those screeners. So I'm still figuring out how to do that for other places. I think I can do it for Disney Plus as well. But I want to do it for all the major releases coming out, because if I can screen them early, it makes my life so much easier rather than going to the movie on Friday whenever movie theater movies are released. So anyway, that's just so you know. And Netflix reviews are coming, and Apple TV are coming from me. In fact, that Werner Herzog documentary is pretty good. And so I wouldn't go subscribe to Apple TV this month. I would wait until you get about 3 or 4 Apple TV movies you're interested in, and then do one of their free week-long trials. But that could be one of them. It's about it's about meteorites and their impact, pun intended, on culture. And it's Werner Herzog doing Herzog stuff. So if you know him, you'll probably like the documentary. Okay. Got some people in the chat. Hello, welcome. The white balloon, I appreciate that. Yeah, I would like to do more Iranian movies, in fact, and on the channel. So we'll see if I can get to that this coming year. Let's see what else. Okay, so we got some people in here now, and we can talk about the Criterion Channel. This is what we talk about, is what's leaving the Criterion Channel. If you don't have it, that's fine. You're still going to get recommendations, but one of the nice features about Criterion Channel is they tell you what's going away at the end of the month, and you may never see again or may not have access to. So one way to slim down what you could watch on these channels is to see, or these streaming services, is to see what's leaving the channel. And so let's look at Criterion Channel. There were a lot of movies on here leaving on November 30th, 2020 that I have not seen and don't know anything about. And so if you've seen any of these, feel free to chime in the live chat. I'll give you 3 or 4. All right, so 3 or 4 recommendations. The first one, I don't know how many of you have seen it, but you need to see it because of its historical value and its sort of amazing editing. At the end of it, at least, is Duck Soup by the Marx Brothers, which I'll just tell you, for kids, you put kids in front of Duck Soup and, well, they'll laugh themselves silly. Well, I'm only talking about my own experience with my own children, but they absolutely love the slapstick and the crazy humor of Duck Soup, which is a forerunner of Looney Tunes cartoons, just like a lot of silent movies are. And so the ending of Duck Soup is really profound, I think, as well as just wildly inventive. I did a video on Duck Soup, very short one, didn't say too much about it, and in anticipation that no one had really seen it out there. And you're going to look at it and go, well, it's a 1930s movie, but you really haven't seen much, if anything, like Duck Soup. So try that. It's only an hour and 20 minutes of your life anyway. So let's see. And then, what else? Okay, so there are the Election movie. It's called Election. Alexander Payne's, I think, second full feature. It's a pretty good movie. I wouldn't say it's his best, but Reese Witherspoon, Matthew Broderick, and it's about a high school election. If you know United States high schools, you will understand this. The election for class president, a meaningless, in my view, position, but one that is taken very seriously in this movie. I suppose you could call it a parody of American politics, but it's sort of about the vanity, I think, of those kinds of petty elections and trying to win things. And there's a lot about that movie. It's pretty good overall. So if you're looking for something amusing, Election would be a movie to watch. As well, Shampoo, a movie that I talked about in my Hal Ashby video, if you've seen that. But I really need to do a video on Shampoo at some point. A movie I avoided for a long time because of its seemingly silly title. Also, I don't need shampoo. But, on. Yeah, there we go. So, Shampoo it stars, oh no, I'm blanking, Warren Beatty. And he's quite good in this. And it's about the vanity of Hollywood, vanity of American politics. I called it, I think I did in the video, a Kierkegaardian movie. I mean, I read Kierkegaard a lot, or I did. And it reminds me of the aesthetic sphere of what Kierkegaard describes as, humans striving after pleasures or trying to be glitzy and glamorous and all that. I just like that movie a lot. I think it's really interesting, although you're going to have to think about it to understand it. Looks like I lost all my viewers, which is 11 viewers. I can't tell what's going on here. The YouTube live stream isn't that great for me. The next recommendation is Columbus. Now, Columbus is a movie about Columbus, Indiana. And you're going to go, what the heck is that? It's a small town, smallish city in southern Indiana. It has a lot of advanced modernist architecture, though, from, I think, the 1920s, maybe later than that. And the movie shows you all of those pieces of architecture and humans affected by architecture and art. And it's a really interesting-looking movie just for its look. The compositions are gorgeous and exquisite. I watched this movie, Columbus, with several artists who were just awed by it. I was less awed by the story. It's a really interesting story because it came out during the Me Too movement in the United States, and it features a friendship between a 35-year-old man and an 18-year-old, maybe younger, I think she's 18 or 19-year-old girl. And that's just a weird kind of relationship in America. People suspect things if you're friends with those kinds of people, or if an older man and a very young woman are friends. But it's about friendship and how these two characters bond in a world, Columbus, Indiana, that has this vast architecture that's interesting and profound to them. So try it and see, although I give a tentative recommendation for it because I'm not sure who's going to like this and who's going to go, this is really boring. I'm not sure what this is about. So Columbus, Indiana, those are the four: Duck Soup, Election, Shampoo, and Columbus. I'm looking at Criterion Channel going, they have a lot of female directors leaving the channel. I'm not sure how to pronounce it exactly. Chantal Ackerman, probably butchered that. And also I butchered the other name, Claire Denise. I probably am not saying that correctly, but both of them have movies that are going off. And as well, Busby Berkeley musicals. So those are the ones I'm sort of interested in watching at some point. And we'll see if if those are any good, and I'll let you know. All right. So those are my recommendations for this month. And I'm looking at this live chat and my concurrent viewers. I'm not sure if anybody's here because it tells me 0 concurrent viewers. So we'll see if anybody is around. But I'll look at this chat box and I'm looking. Someone says the Three Colors trilogy, my reviews changed your mind. Yeah, I mean, Three Colors trilogy, right? If you've not seen it, it deserves to be watched very carefully. If you're watching any Kieślowski movies, they're not necessarily wildly entertaining, but he is a literary genius connecting all of his stories together, and those Three Color trilogy movies overlap. You've got to watch them all together, I think. Although you could watch each one separately. So, yeah, watch those videos. Okay, you're here. Great. I'm glad you're here in the chat. Yeah, someone was saying that they like the Three Colors trilogy, or they like the reviews, which I've got one on Red, that movie Red, coming out this week. Also in the chat, yeah, let's see. Hello, everybody. The Women, 1939 is my favorite 1930s movie. The Women, is it just called The Women? I'm not sure what you mean. I'll have to look that one up. Because probably that title is, there's probably a lot of movies with The Women as a title. Hello, Earl Crown. I haven't looked exhaustively through the channel, but would love to hear your thoughts on Wes Anderson and Paul Thomas Anderson. How much time do you have here? Looks like people are getting kicked off of the chat, although I can't tell. So Paul Thomas Anderson, Wes Anderson, if I out myself as not liking them, is that bad? Are you going to unsubscribe? I have not quite understood their movies entirely. I like them from a formal compositional aesthetic sense, right? They're obviously great movie makers, compositionalists, editors. One thing I struggle with both of them is their stories. And you probably have seen my bias on this channel. I'm trying to figure out how a movie matches up with reality or our lives. And part of my thing with these reviews is I'm thinking about how I could teach a movie. Could I teach one of their movies? I could if I were teaching people how to be filmmakers, right? But I'm usually trying to teach people how to analyze films. And so, well, okay, I'm not ever sure which movies of theirs, how would I teach their movies? Wes Anderson is really interesting, obviously, as somebody who, I think his later movies have been better than the earlier ones. Maybe that's sacrilege, but I've appreciated them more. And then Paul Thomas Anderson, I mean, I've got to rewatch, the Oil movie. Oh, shoot, what in the world is the name of that? Now I'm going to have to look it up. The one that everybody likes, right? There Will Be Blood. That one is of great interest. I have not seen The Phantom Thread, so I probably should watch that. But, boy, I don't know. So anyway, I'm not their biggest fans. I'll put it that way. And probably that's my problem. I usually find that if I don't like someone who I think is a great filmmaker, it's probably my problem, and I need to rewatch them and study them a little bit more carefully. So anyway, it looks like the chat is dropping people out of here. So we will rewatch this and see. I'll give you a couple more recommendations to go by for this coming month. And the first one that comes up is I know what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about Sean Connery. That's right. It just hit my brain. So I'll give you Sean Connery recommendations. Sean Connery died a couple days ago. Rest in peace. Poor Sean Connery, 90 years old, died in the Bahamas. Right? I think that's the way to go, and had an obviously stellar career that, boy, I remember Sean Connery movies since I was born, basically, and he was on television, cable TV, all kinds of television throughout my youth, including when I was a college student. He was still pumping them out. I remember when The Rock came out with Nicolas Cage. People loved that at my age. And the Sean Connery movies I would recommend are probably a little offbeat. I'm trying to think of, what's the Michael Caine one? The Man Who Would Be King. I highly recommend that. That's a John Huston movie about going into Afghanistan, and it's before the U.S. went into Afghanistan for 19 years, 20 years. That was a cautionary tale, and no one took its advice. And that was even before the Russians, the USSR, went into Afghanistan. So, The Man Who Would Be King, based on a Rudyard Kipling story. The other Sean Connery movie I like is, I probably shouldn't like it, it's a guilty pleasure, is Outland, which is a movie that rips off Alien, and it is a rehash of Rio Bravo. Is it Rio Bravo? No. No, it's not Rio Bravo. It's the Gary Cooper movie, the Countdown movie, which I'm now blanking on. The Western in which he, the lone sheriff, has a showdown against all the bad guys in town. But that movie, I just think is fun. It's a space movie. It's a Western too, and I thought that was really enjoyable. A lot of people like Zardoz, this science fiction movie from the mid-1970s, which is a trippy far future movie. What I appreciate about it is I love far future stories set way, way, way in the future. That one it's intriguing, but I hated it. And on Letterboxd, I reviewed it, so you can read my review, and people are upset about it. There's a huge contingency, huge meaning thousands of people on the internet who love Zardoz. If you think about the title, which is a nonsense word, you can kind of figure out where it's from. But try it, all right? Try to see if you like weird science fiction movies. I'm looking at this 1970 movies: The Wind and the Lion, A Bridge Too Far. Obviously, or even Robin and Marion. That was okay. Murder on the Orient Express. I loved that as a kid. The Name of the Rose, no. Just read the Echo book. And then obviously the one that I was always influenced by because I was a kid at the time was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where he played Henry Jones's father. Time Bandits. He's in Time Bandits as King Agamemnon. Time Bandits is worth a try as well. So rest in peace, Sean Connery, an actor who oozed, masculinity that was influential for me as a kid. Yeah, Name of the Rose is your favorite. Oh, okay. So I didn't watch Name of the Rose except on TV. And so I read the book, and I love the book for a lot of reasons, especially it's revealed. I shouldn't give away the ending, but the ending, they find a book that's lost, and I love the idea of this lost book. I guess you got to be a fan of Greek philosophy to love it, but Echo, his book is great. So anyway, it looks like the chat is dropping, so hopefully a lot of you will come back and watch this, but I really appreciate all of you subscribers and as commenters. And I want to thank you again for just the ability to be on here, do this stuff, have fun with it, produce reviews that are interesting. I hope they're interesting, the videos and so on. So thanks a lot for all. Anybody else on here have any more questions? I'm sorry this thing looks like it's dropping. Maybe it's not, but it looks like my OBS thing is still having problems. Hi, Jerry McVean. I recently finished some of the long-form storytelling mile markers. Elephant Standing Still, Intolerance, Satin Tango. I don't know how to pronounce that. I was going to watch that, and Berlin Alexander plot. So that is a huge that's a lot of time to invest in movies. But yeah, those are probably worth it. How do you approach larger films? Oh gosh, so Berlin Alexander Platz to me is a forerunner. I've not seen it, but knowing what it is, it's a forerunner of these serial TV shows, that have been in vogue for the last 15 years. And these are gigantic mammoth works. Now, Berlin Alexander Plot's only 13 hours, but you get to these serial TV shows like the ones that I like. I think I've recommended Deadwood, previous live streams. Of course, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. I liked Lost a lot when it was coming out. I need to rewatch it. Battlestar Galactica. These are humongous, sort of sprawling, they're like Victorian novels. And to keep all this stuff in your head, you got to pay attention to everything. Even what I would do, Jerry, is write it down, like take notes, which is what I do during 2-hour movies anyway. But take notes, just the names of characters and what's happening to them, so you can go back, because the writers are knowledgeable about the universe they're creating. But I think it's pretty difficult to watch a 4-hour movie and understand it all, let alone 13-hour miniseries, or long form movie, whatever it is. So yeah, trying to think of other long form, larger films that you're talking like 6, 7, 8 hours long. And War and Peace would be one. Yeah, you mentioned War and Peace, so try one of those and see. Heard Pacino talk about the Tree of Wooden Clogs. Oh my goodness. What is the Tree of Wooden Clogs? Why have I not heard of this? So Al Pacino is in the Tree of Wooden Clogs. If anybody knows what that is, let us know. So this is why I get on here and talk to you guys, because you know so much. This collection of... This is an Italian movie rated highly on IMDb. So I will check this out. Peasant life in a feudal farm in rural Italy at the end of the night. This is the worst description I've ever seen of a movie. Look it up on IMDb, The Tree of Wooden Clogs. But Al Pacino recommended it. And, this is the one thing I want to say about Sean Connery. Al Pacino even. Gene Hackman. Who else was it? Michael Caine, maybe. All of these guys, as you read their interviews and stories, biographies, are readers. In fact, Sean Connery, this New York Times article I read about him as an obituary, said that he really took off as an actor when he went and read a lot of modernist fiction, James Joyce, Thomas Wolfe, Proust, and he was an avid reader of a lot of great artists, obviously novelists and playwrights, and that helped him think about his characters and such. But yeah, to be a great reader, or to read a lot, you'll just understand how to make movies better. I keep hearing that from people, or as I read interviews. So those guys from the 1960s, 70s, 80s. Oh, the one, Jack Nicholson, is another one. I don't know if he's a reader, but the movies he's in are very literary. So maybe that's what this movie is, Tree of Wooden Clogs. Okay, a couple more questions, and then I'm going to take off. Let's see. Al Pacino's favorite movie. Well, then I'm going to go get it. I'm going to check it out from my library. It's probably have to get it via interlibrary loan. Another question I'm getting regularly. Where do I find these movies? I mean, are they on Amazon? No. Well, where do I find them? People ask me in comments that a lot. And so on Letterboxd with a D, go to any movie on there and you can find where it's currently streaming and how to access it. And so that's the one place I go to find where a movie is and if I can get it for free or have to pay for it. Obviously, you look on YouTube to see if it's on YouTube. But another option for Americans, at least, is, and I don't know if this is true in Europe or other places, but interlibrary loan. If you're in a big city, you've got a university probably near you. Do you have access to their stuff? I don't know. You might have a big public library, though, and so go find it there or through interlibrary loan, which is what I do. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and interlibrary loan saves me all kinds of time and problems and headaches trying to find a movie. So if you can't find it online, just go to the library system, and hopefully you can get a DVD. If not, hopefully a Blu-ray. If not that, then a DVD. So that's a question I get a lot. Where can I find movies? So try those methods. Okay. How much does your mood affect your analysis and enjoyment of movies? Yeah, a lot. A lot. I don't watch movies at night because, rarely. If I watch a movie at night, it's just for entertainment. I don't turn my brain on that much. I want my brain on full, and it's just as tough as reading, I think. In fact, movies are so complex. I want to be as awake as I can, and since I'm a morning person, most of the movies I'll watch during the day at some point. Usually not in the morning, but as awake as I can be, usually with a cup of coffee. And you know what the other problem is with watching movies is phones. If I have my smartphone with me, I'm very fidgety, and I'll even check the internet out if I'm on my laptop or computer. So it's kind of hard watching a movie and giving it your full concentration these days if you're interconnected with social media. So that, to me, that's a big problem actually as far as concentration in movie watching. What else? Li Chang Dong. Okay, so I don't know that one. Who is that? I think I've heard the name, but I can't even. I'm typing this into IMDb. Chang Dong Lee. I will check this person out. Oh, yes, Burning. I've meant to watch Burning. So thanks for reminding me of that. I haven't got a hold of that movie, but I've heard some amazing things about that, and I really appreciate the reviews I read. So Burning, and I will try that one. Thank you for that. That's probably that one, and the other one mentioned earlier we'll try this month. Do I have a top 10 faves? We get that asked a lot. On Letterboxd, I have a list of favorite movies, not exactly ranked. I mean, there's probably a top tier and a middle tier there, but you can go on there and see. Jerry, the movies I like are always shifting around. So 20 years ago, 10 years ago, today, my top 10 list is wildly different. Now, as I've said in the last live stream, or previous live streams, I probably will, whenever the Sight and Sound poll by the British Film Institute is released, I'll probably do a video on what I would put in the top 10 movies. I do not have a vote in that poll, but what I would put as the top 10 greatest movies ever, which is a tough thing to do, obviously, because 10 is such a limited limit. And then, do you rank them based on influence or popularity or whatever, or their formal elements or their story? There's a lot of ways to rank movies, and so that's a tricky one. Here's another question, Jerry. I'd like to do a video on this. Is if you had 7 movies, just 7, and you were going to teach an introduction to film class to young people, what 7 movies would you put in there? You only got 7, right? So you got to teach people who watch Netflix, they're on their phones a lot. What would you put in there to teach them what the art of film is? Now, I ask that because I'm faced with that question about once a year I teach the intro to film class. And I get half a semester. They don't even get a full semester, half a semester to teach students. So I show them something of historical value. Do they show them a lot of movies they have never seen? Or do I pander to them a little bit and show them something they've seen and try to show it to them in a new light? An example of that would be, I've done this before, show them Ratatouille, which they've seen as little kids. And I'm talking about 18 to 20-year-old college students. They've seen it 7, 8, 10 years ago. And I'm asking them to look at it from a composition standpoint, from a thematic standpoint, and look at it as a critic or as a director or as an artist would. So this is an interesting idea, and I'll probably maybe even just do a live stream on that because it is a very tricky problem. And these are American students, so do I show them something international, right? And they're averse to black and white movies, so that's a trick. You show them 7 black and white movies, they'll probably revolt or something. No, sort of. All right, so that's another one. And go on Letterboxd for the top 10 list, and I'm always adding to that, by the way. Brad Bird is a legend. Yeah, he's done well. I wish I had his career. Let's put it that way. All right, one question. 3 Colors Red versus Pulp Fiction. I should almost end on this question. That is a great... Wow. Boy, you got me stumped. Sheesh. So I just watched from last live stream this Turkish movie, Once Upon a Time in Anatolia. Although I wasn't blown away by it, a lot of people have been, and I think it's a really interesting sort of literary movie for sure. and I could see the Pulp Fiction influence on this movie. I'm not sure if the director even watched this Pulp Fiction, but the idle chattiness showing up in this Once Upon a Time in Anatolia movie that felt to me like it was from a Tarantino movie is really the theme in the movie is very bleak and dark and stark, and people are going to look for a dead body, but then they're chatting about eating lamb. It's idle chat while they're going, and that seemed very Tarantino-esque, and I can't deny the influence of Pulp Fiction. And so when I look at that question, I go, Pulp Fiction was so influential on so many people, and the Tarantino style has seeped into so many movie makers, ideas about what a movie is. But then I go with Three Colors Red. That's a deep, rich, profound movie, and even if it isn't as influential, I rewatched it recently. I've got a video coming out on it, and I think overall that's a better movie, Three Colors Red, or maybe that's just my preference. But I don't know. I think if you're doing the history of 1990s cinema, the 90s being an arbitrary cutoff point for an era, but those two would be in there, I think for sure. And I don't know how the Cannes Film Festival could possibly choose from both of those. So, good question. In fact, that gives me a good idea for a video, is looking back at old Cannes Film Festivals and looking at the movies that were competing and to see which ones got it right and which ones were so wildly off it's hilarious. You can do that with Oscars and the Oscar best winners, but to do that with Cannes Film Festival, because you can always make fun of Cannes, right? Hoity-toity artists, the snobby artists, making stupid choices. That would be fun to look at, or getting it right. So, by the way, thanks for the videos you put. It's very helpful. I live in the Middle East, and we don't have any form of teaching films. Oh, really? Maybe you can't tell me where you live, but this commenter says, you don't have any form of teaching films. I find that thing comes up a lot. That is, do you have access to the art of film, how to look at films? And most of my videos are about a critic or a viewer's perspective and analysis, for example. But also, people watch my videos to see how movies are made and what they mean. And so this is a good question. There's one reason I'm on YouTube, is to teach somewhat or to interact with you guys educationally. And I really appreciate that because, some of you don't have access to film classes. And a lot of people still, even in the United States, we do not teach film or analysis of video in our schools at all, which is, it's great that they teach reading in schools, math and science, but to have not taught how to analyze a video, how to think about what meanings are in movies and the shows that all of these kids are watching and consuming, it's sort of a big problem. So I think cultural problem. So this is one reason I do what I do, and thank you for that comment. I really appreciate that. How I speak my mind. This commenter is saying something that is amusing to me. Good for you. Good how you speak your mind, not easily influenced. Okay. So, a long time ago, I decided I didn't care about the crowd, and I didn't believe that I should be one that imitated everybody else. I'm sort of a crowd-averse person anyway, and when there's a mass or herd of people or a big group of people believing one thing, I want to be skeptical about it, sort of my default position. So, here's the truth. I go into every movie believing it can be great, or very good, or good. So I have high hopes every time I go into a movie, and if it's Tenet, I will open myself up to it. I think that's what we should all do. I believe that the art we're about to consume and watch and study is worthwhile. And then, if it doesn't strike me as interesting or good or profound or complex, I gotta say that out loud. And if the YouTube hordes are gonna come after me as they did on Tenet, and so be it. I don't love being called all kinds of terrible names on YouTube, but I think we should all be honest. And what really matters to me on a review is not really what my judgment is. Because really, who cares about anybody's judgment, whether they liked it or not? It's about how they saw it. and the observations they made and the analysis they made to come to their judgment. So to me, the observations and analysis, how you watch something, that's very interesting. And so there could be a reviewer out there who you disagree with 100%, but you still gain a lot from that person. And so I'm trying to do that as much as I possibly can, relying less on judgment and did I like it or not, what did I like about it, and even the star power involved in a movie. And I'm trying to more about looking at the patterns the movie creates, the choices that it made, making those observations, and then analyzing that and seeing what it means. And that way, I don't even have to get my judgment is not in the way. I can tell you, I think this movie means this, or it's saying these kinds of things. And that doesn't tell you whether I like it or not necessarily. You can get something out of the reviews. So that's actually one of my methods as a review. So yeah, I try to say what I think. Although the more negative stuff I do, the more crap I'm going to take from YouTubers. And I appreciate all of you who deal with these things intellectually. Another idea for comparison, yeah, Memento versus Peppermint Candy. Yeah, so true that film should be taught. I watched Videodrome, and the concept of the TV is the retina of the mind. Yeah, Videodrome. I got to do a video on that, by the way. It's very, very difficult a movie to watch, so I think it deserves analysis. But yeah, that's a good comment. What disciplines bring the best approach to studying films? Oh man, Earl. So I don't know if you've been exposed to this idea. I won't even mention the person's name just because, well, no, I will. It's Scott Adams. I read Scott Adams' autobiography, sort of. I forget the name of it, but it's orange and it's got a big foot on it. How to fail at everything and still succeed. And he's got this concept of stacking skills. Keep learning a skill, learning another skill, and then you can sort of put them together. And for film analysis, it really is, learning as much about all kinds of things as you can. So I don't trust a lot of reviewers on the internet because I don't think they've learned a lot about different disciplines. I don't even trust myself sometimes because I don't think I know enough about all the disciplines that are involved in watching a movie. There's a lot of young reviewers on YouTube, and I have to say, on YouTube and other places, they don't know much about much. It's good to know a lot about history, for sure. It's good to know a lot about literary criticism, for sure. Psychology, definitely. Obviously, the art of film. I know a lot about theology, for good or for ill, and philosophy, somewhat, science, the philosophy of science, and the list goes on. I mean, what is a film? So recently I taught the movie Her, with Spike Jonze as Her, and it has Joaquin Phoenix in it, right? And I taught it to a class once again, and it's a profound movie to me. I just did a video on it. Will come out in December. The movie has computer science, philosophy of science, the effect of phones on culture, psychology, for sure, psychology of trauma, science fiction, some background in science fiction and the depiction of the future, aesthetics, the aesthetic choices in that. Obviously, the movie's about AI and the development of AI and the question of the singularity. And so there's so many things in this one movie I'm looking at. Oh, commercial products and how marketing works. That's in this movie too. I'm looking at this movie and going, if you don't know at least a little bit about all these things, if you don't have some experience with them, how do you analyze this movie properly? And I just don't know. So I would recommend learning at least a little bit about a lot because it's going to help you with the bulk of movie history. A movie is about everything. There's some movies that are about everything, or I should say a movie is about a lot. And so it's once about history, philosophy, morals, theology, sometimes science, obviously. And so being about so many disciplines, I think a reviewer or critic ought to be something of a dilettante. Maybe a polymath, although that's pretty rare, but to know a lot about, a little bit about a lot. A little bit about, that's very helpful. And obviously movies will be part of your learning experience. So it's a great question. I just watched the Werner Herzog Fireball documentary, and he argues that you should be a polymath, and he himself shows off his polymath skills, science, culture, anthropology, and everything, aesthetics are in that movie, and he's arguing that you should know as much as you can about the universe. So that's what critics should be. I love this. I'll just keep going. Agenda-based reviewing is the latest thing, unfortunately. Well, it's just a herd mentality. People get on the internet, they create reviews, they're working for corporate media, and then they sort of all affirm each other. I hate that, but it's true. And then the worst thing is identity politics reviewing, in which they just count the number of people of a certain skin color, and there's some kind of quota there, and that's all the movie. They just based the review of the movie on that. I think that's a big problem, and I disagree with that entirely. So yes, agenda-based reviewing. I try to keep my own political views out of it as much as possible, although I have a lot of biases, and you'll probably figure those out over time. But I try to take the movie as it is and just simply analyze it. If you just observe and analyze without judging a movie, you're going to be free of those agendas as much as you can be. So I think Satyajit Ray, yes, or Rai, yeah, he's great. Do I think Paul Thomas Anderson Villeneuve is the most artistic filmmakers of America? Sheesh. Oh boy. Who are the most artistic filmmakers in the United States? Oh my goodness. It's a question of who's got the most talent but not using it well. Who is... Boy, oh boy. You got me stumped there. I really don't know. They're talented in terms of visual and oral sometimes, although I didn't like the Blade Runner 2049 score, but that's just me. I think they have talent. The question is story and theme and relating it to the real world. So I just mentioned Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman. I think they're better than those two you mentioned. And I wouldn't even put them in the very top, but who was I thinking of? So one guy I like, I'm going to say this person is underrated, is Scott Cooper. I think Scott Cooper is really good. And I like all of his movies, and they're hard and they're difficult, sort of existential hero, lone male crisis sorts of movies, which maybe I personally identify with. That's a problem, but I think his movies are quite good, and he's underrated. So I go see his movies whenever I can. I prefer him over a couple of people you've mentioned. So anyway, I got to run too. Thanks for watching. This is always fun. Hope to see you again. Hope to hear from you on the review or the comments. It's always great to hear your recommendations and the things that I haven't heard of. So I appreciate everything you've said here. And keep watching for meaning and insight in movies. They tell you about your life, the real world as it is. Don't watch movies just for entertainment. It's always my thing, but watch them for entertainment and to learn. So hopefully that's what this channel does for you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great November. I'll see you in December.